Good morning, and thank you for joining today's webinar from Spec Innovations and Slate 101. My name is Elizabeth Steiner, and I'll be your moderator. In case you missed the update in our last email, Joanna Moore will unfortunately not be able to give the presentation today. Dr. Dan will be giving today's webinar with a question and answer session to follow. During the presentation, feel free to send us your questions and we will get them answered in the question and answer part of the webinar. You can also interact with us on LinkedIn through the InnoSlate user group or through Twitter using the handle @InnoSlate. The webinar is being recorded and we will make it available to you after the live presentation, so be sure to keep an eye out for it in your inbox. Now I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Dr. Steve Dam. He'll be sharing with you how to get started with a new project in InnoSlate. Dr. Dam is the president and founder of Spec Innovations as well as one of our DODAF training instructors. He has been involved with research, experiments, operations analysis, software development, systems engineering, and training for more than 40 years. Dr. Dam is a member of the LML Steering Committee. He has also received an Expert Systems Engineering Professional Certification from INCOSE. Currently, he is applying systems engineering techniques to various DoD, DOE, and commercial projects. Feel free to send Dr. Dam any questions through the LinkedIn user group or send him an email. And now I'll hand over the controls to Dr. Dam and we will get started.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I do apologize for not being able to, I hope I can channel my inner new user. It's always hard to come into a new tool, but I've been using these kinds of tools for over 30 years. So it's, but I'll put that hat back on and I think we'll get there. So let me tell you a little bit about the tool itself if you don't know about InnoSlate, and that's we'll do a couple of slides and then we'll jump into actually getting into how you get into start using the tool. So one of the things we did was we recognized that the tools that were out there at the time were really difficult to use, hard to understand. The drawings had to be redrawn each time. Yeah, maybe they'd capture them in a database, but the databases often were 2 or 3 different tools. So it just ended up being a very, very cumbersome kind of environment to work in. The other thing we found was that the models themselves that you were building that way often weren't executable. They had no means to test them without going to an external simulator of some kind. So that was kind of a key problem. And of course, working across the entire life cycle would take, half dozen tools to do all the different things you wanted to do. And of course, then the lack of collaboration. We worked on projects with hundreds of modelers trying to work together, and it was a nightmare to try to integrate the data. So the InnoSlate solution was to try to address those problems and more. And so particularly simplicity, we tackled that right at the forefront with the language and helped develop the lifecycle modeling language as part of the Lifecycle Modeling Language Steering Committee. And so that gave us a new capability to work and understand things effectively. We also went cloud. Cloud gave us scalability, collaboration capabilities, and added to the simplicity by using a web browser interface. So that helps a lot. Also in our collaboration capabilities, we have real-time indicators to show you when somebody else is looking at the same thing you are. And we have chat and all kinds of other things to help you with collaboration. Accuracy, well, we have the simulators, of course, the discrete event and Monte Carlo simulators. That's for the modeling accuracy. But we're also applying natural language processing and machine learning technology to things like requirements. Is the requirement a high quality requirement? Requirements traceability. Should things be connected to each other? Should they be traced to each other? Also a set of heuristics that we have that we received from work done at Naval Postgraduate School and Stevens Institute of Technology, where they've come up with a set of 68 heuristics or best practices for how you should be doing things in the model. So again, that accuracy is a key part of what we're providing now, those kind of analytics to help you do a better job with what you're doing. I mentioned scalability, again, cloud-based, but also you have to design the software for scalability. So you have to have that ability to visualize the information, even though it's a large set of information, or access that large set of information easily. And so again, that's a key part of what we've done. We also do full lifecycle support, requirements, modeling, simulation. We have a test center. But one of the things that I like best is you can also author all your documentation in the tool directly. And that gives you a document as a model kind of approach, which is a new thing that we're really kind of prototyping in this tool. And then finally, interoperability. You do have to be able to migrate data in and out of the tool. And so we have a number of different mechanisms for that. We're going to show you some of that as we get through today. So this is the overall life cycle model. We like this model because it reminds us of the things we do through the whole life cycle. And even though you might do it in different ways and different phases and different iterations and things like that, it's still fundamentally the same life cycle. So to support that, we have a documents view, which is often where people get started, and we'll start today, in fact. And then there's a special type of document, which is the requirement. And our requirements view includes things like the quality score of the requirement. I'll show you what that means in a little bit. And then modeling. We have 24 different diagram types right now. We're adding more all the time. And so you're going to see new capabilities that continue to progress throughout the time that we are using this tool. We are constantly looking for more to add. So if you have suggestions, we do have a place for suggestions like that. CAD viewers, so we're starting to delve into what's the design engineering space. How do we interact with those design engineering tools like CAD, and how do we then take and bring that information back up and show it how it's meeting the requirements. For example, here we have the ability to create the assets, the physical pieces of that CAD object, and then we can trace them back to the originating requirements that use them. We also have simulation, as I mentioned, both discrete event and Monte Carlo are built into the tool, very effective. They will also roll up cost, schedule, and performance kinds of indicators. So you really can do a full kind of analysis with it. And the Monte Carlo gives you a good idea of potential risk in those areas. And of course, we have Test Center. Test Center is our test place where we capture the test cases, the results, the expected result, the actual results, status. You roll up the status. It gives you a really good view of your testing and what you're planning to do with your testing. We also have a lot of program management support capabilities, risk diagrams, timelines, all kinds of other things to help you in the program management space. So again, it's a very complete, integrated, single package. There are no plugins, so there's none of that hassle either. Again, that's part of the simplicity. It's all there for you as you need it. Go into the different parts as you want to. So let's jump into the actual demo, and because that's the fun part. So the first thing is you're going to be faced with, let me just take just 1 second, there we go. I wanted to look at something, make sure I could see the same screen, because sometimes the latency between the GoToMeeting and slows things down a bit. So anyway, so one of the first things you're going to do is actually come to this website, innoslate.com, and sign up for free. So that's the very first step. We highly recommend doing that right away. If you scroll down, you'll see some information about the tool. But probably the most important piece of information is at the bottom right here. It says contact us. This was on that first slide that Elizabeth showed. And it has the sales and support. And support is available for everybody. We have email, phone, and chat support. It is on. I believe our hours are 7 to 4 Eastern time. So just be aware of that. But if you have a problem, email support, and you might get responses at all kinds of strange times and days. So and so going back up to the top here, one of the places I want to start is with the help package. So you click the help package, and I have the tab up here for it to make that simple. And so this is your help center. Now in the help center, there's a great places to get started with the how-to guides. There's a InnoSlate 101. There are all kinds of different examples. Also, if you're new to the administration level, there's an administrator at the organizational level now, so there's a guide for them. And so we highly recommend you look at this information. If you want to know anything about the release notes, those are here, and some other quick links to help you connect to different things. So take a look at that 101 guide, particularly here. You could just walk through it. It'll take you to tell you about the lifecycle modeling language, which is the basic underlying schema we use. It's the ontology that gives us that schema capability. So this will give you an idea of how it's organized, the projects, attributes, and entities, relationships, attributes is our primary model that we're using for this. So again, if you're not familiar with those concepts, they're all here. And it talks about how InnoSlate works and the fact that you have classes of information and then they're connected by relationships. So that's the key driver. So these are your nouns and your verbs of your language. And so these are very critical to understanding and using the tool effectively. But you don't have to do that to get started. And we'll show you how, you don't have to become an expert in this to get started. But I would just at least want to let you know that's right there. And then go to one of the examples. Maybe if you're interested in requirements management, there's a great little example here. Again, it recommends reading the 101 guide. You scroll down, it talks about the different steps to create a new project. We'll show you how to do that in a second. And then you go and download examples, okay, that then you can use to do importing, and this is all step by step taking you through that process. So, and building the model. So I think you'll find this to be very, very valuable to get going if you've never seen this kind of tool before, particularly. Another thing is particularly for all of you who are younger than I am, particularly, you probably like to go to and see this in YouTube videos. And we have a YouTube channel, the Spec Innovations YouTube channel. We'll send you the link for that, and you can easily get to this page and listen to different webinars, and that can help you on the side. Highly recommend you keep the help center or some of these other things at your side. So you can bring that right here. Here's your user's guide. So you notice now I've got this as a separate window. So if I just wanted to have my user's guide in front of me and I want to see the different things I'm looking for, like one of the things is the database view has searching for entities. And that's a very valuable section to find things and see how we use keywords and things like that. So again, I think this will help you tremendously in getting started. So I'm sorry, I'm a little hoarse because I just got back from 3 days of talking. So let's get into actually starting up a project. So a lot of you just want to get going, right? It's just, let's start a new project and let's start playing with this thing and see what we can do with it. So you will be in an organization. If you do the demo version, the demo organization is there. You won't see a lot of projects. You'll see just yours, and you'll see just that one. I'm the owner of this organization. I'm one of the administrators of this particular organization, which is my company's organization. So we have lots of different projects out there, and so don't be surprised to just see one to get started with or none. If you want to start a new project, you come over here to the right top corner and click that button. And again, you may not see much here except to create projects. So let's do that. Create a new project, and we're going to call it demo. And we're going to say showing how to get started. And of course, if you can't spell like I can't, it does help you. Let's create that. So you notice you now have a dashboard. You have a few panels. There's not much in them, right? And that's okay. That's understandable. At this point, you don't have a lot of data, but you notice here the wiki panel is right here. So you can show how to get started was what I just had typed, right, is the description field for this. So again, I can add that in here now and add more things to it. In fact, I can even insert pictures. I can insert, once I have diagrams in the tool, I can add a diagram, tables. So again, this is very valuable for you to capture information, post it for other people to see what's going on, what you're doing. So rather than spending a lot of time on the dashboard, since we don't have a lot of information in it, the best place to start is up here with the menu. So the menu bar is here, and you can do the drop down, see the different items that are there. And if you notice, there's several already at the top. Those are already pinned. So if I want to add ones, and I'm going to do something like use import analyzer, and I am going to use that in a minute. So I can just click that. Now I've pinned it up to the menu bar, and so it's quicker access to it. So that's helpful for you. By the way, if you're using a smaller profile machine, this will shrink down, and you may not see a lot of those right there, so you will have to access them from the menu side of that. Sometimes when I'm using my iPad for this, I've noticed I have to do that. So again, this is the different things you'll be looking at: the dashboard, the database view, documents view, diagrams, test center, and import analyzer. We're going to go through all those here today. And over here is where, if you want to have the chat sidebar, you click on that, and that'll open up the chat line. And then if there's someone else with you that you're sharing with and working with this project, then you can have a chance to chat with them back and forth. I haven't shared this with anybody yet, so let me go do that. So I do that on the next item over on the top of that menu bar, the little arrow, and that says share your project. And so all I would do to do that is I'd go pick if I'm in a project with an organization with other people. If you're in a demo organization, you won't get this list. You have to type in the specific username. But because I'm in an organization that has already been created, I'll go ahead and add Elizabeth as a collaborator, and I can share that with her, and then she's easily added in. And so this is how you organize and you manage the access to the information in the project, at the project level. Notifications is not active at the moment, so that's what that little bell is for. And then the last thing was the same little folder we saw earlier, which was the quick link to get to the different quick link projects, most recent things I've been touching and looking at, or create new project or manage projects, and I can see all the different project sets there as well. So those are things you can do with that. Let's take that off. Okay, so let's say, okay, now getting started. How do I get started? I got the blank canvas here. What do? How do I get going? Well, maybe one of the first things I want to do, I start a new project. So I want a new document. I want a project plan. So I click Documents View, and I say New Document, and there are all kinds of document types already pre-populated here with templates that are associated with them as well. So okay, now you can create your own document type, by the way, but that's something a little more advanced, so we're not going to talk about that today. But so you can add your own document types, and in 4.2 you're going to be able to add your own templates as well. So that's a new feature coming in with 4.2. I can talk about it because it's next month. So let's say I'm doing project plans. Let's do that. Let's select that, and let's give it a number just for PP1. Make it PMP1, and my project plan for this project. Okay, and putting a description field is a good idea. We always recommend doing that. It's just good practice. I'm not going to do it, of course. Show you. So you can start with a blank document. I don't know about you, but I'm not too big on that. We have a couple options here. This is the AV1, which is from the DoD Architecture Framework. That's a standard one that the DoD puts out. CDC, this is the Center for Disease Control, yes, project management plan that they have. We also have a NASA project plan which of course is my favorite with guidelines. So let's pick that one. And then you just click and then say finish. And what that's going to do is it's going to populate it with the guidelines from their document for what they say a project plan is supposed to have. So this is great. Now I can just come in and start doing the things that I want to do. I can talk about, here's my project. Launch to launch to the moon. Okay, so that's going to be what I'm going to want to do. No, we're not going to do that today. But that's the idea. So you go through and you can use this, edit it, adjust it. You can change things. You can say, gee, I don't really like that section. It's not important for what I'm doing. You can delete it. It tells you confirm the delete, okay? And you said, uh-oh, I really didn't want to do that. So let me go back to my dashboard. And I have on my dashboard, you can see some things have happened now. All of a sudden, we've got some entities that have just shown up on that little widget. Activity feed shows some changes that have been made. And you notice at the very top here, it says restore. That means I can bring that back. So I just restore it. And now if I go back to documents view, I have a document that I had already created, this program management plan. I click back in there and there it's back. So this is, again, a way to manage your documents, start building your documentation as you go through the effort. So that's, again, one quick place to get started. Another thing you might want to do is, you know what, I've got a requirements document. I really want to analyze that document, and it's in Word, and it's in a form that I can ingest it into Slate. So let's do that. Let me go hide this particular window and get the thing I want behind it. So I picked up a document from DARPA. If you know the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, this was a BAA, a broad area announcement that they had for it. We do a lot of proposal work for ourselves as well, and so we often treat these as requirements documents because that's what they are. And so this makes a pretty good one. It's very simple. This one now is using the style headings, the word style headings, so for different heading levels. So this is heading 1. I click on this next one, it's a heading 2. So again, those are easy to see and work with. Highly recommend this approach. So because I want to use a parser for it that we have for the word parser. So the way I get to that, so once I have my document and I have the form I wanted in to bring it in, so let's do that. Let's go to Import Analyzer. And it's this first tab. There are other tabs available to you. We have our own import-export capability. So that's a key thing for our XML. The .ino file is a zip file. It includes XML plus anything you've uploaded, like pictures or files, because you can do file management with this as well. We also have an Excel. If you do that first example of requirements, it's actually an Excel spreadsheet import, and you can do that here as well. Worst comes to worst, it's in plain text kind of format. It's a PDF, and you save and you just copy and paste it in that way. So that's your last one. And then of course we do an XMI importer as well. So let's go back to what we're really doing, which is the Word document. Okay, so I want to do Word, and well, I have some stuff that are statements and some that are requirements. So let me start here. I want it to be the statement class. Again, you can select any other class you want for that. So again, you can import any kind of information, so it doesn't just have to be a requirement. In this case, I also want to check for keywords. So I'm looking for keywords. I could add ones. If I wanted to add a should to this as well, I might add that. Or I could say, well, you know what? I just really want shalls. Just want to know it's a shall. And that's going to then, that's when it finds that word, it's going to say it's not a statement, it's a requirement. It's going to make it that. Okay, so let's try this. And so next, and so now I need to go and grab something I can't see at the moment. Okay, so let me go get it. There we go. Okay, so I've got I'll bring it over here so you can see it. So I have a window open for the file management. So here's that DARPA BAA I was just showing you. I'm going to drag it in and drop it here. And there you go, it's working and it says done. Okay, when it's done, then you go hit next. And next shows you a preview of what you've imported. And I'm pretty happy with that. It brought in pictures, or bring pictures and tables, things like that. Looks pretty good. Looks like a lot of it are statements. It does look like this is the first one's a requirement, so we're going to look at that in a minute, see what that means. Okay, let's save it. That will now bring me into a requirements view, because again, it's a requirements document. I brought it in that way. And so it's going to bring me into this view. Now you notice I have more columns here than I had in that original document. You have the ability to adjust that here in settings. This is setting up the things I want to see, the rationale field, quality score, and labels. Those are our defaults. But you can go through and select other things you want to see that are associated with either a statement or a requirement. So we're just going to leave it the way it is because it's pretty good. Another neat little thing here is you can decide where you're going next. So in other words, this is the focus field. So in other words, when I now say description instead, next time it tries to go do something, it's going to jump into the description field, which is something I want it to do. Let's save changes there. So for example here, if I click on one of these, you notice it jumps right into the description field for me. Otherwise, it would have jumped into the name field, which is what was the default. So again, depending on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to focus, you can adjust that as well, even with it. So it said this one was a requirement, and I'm going looking at it, goes, it doesn't look like much of a requirement to me, but it turns out there's a word called shall right here, right in the middle of it. So I can highlight that and say, well, is this really a requirement? Not really. So again, as part of my analysis, I'm going to transform this. I just click that more button, transform to a statement. So then it's going to go through its cycle. And now you see NA for rationale and quality score, because it isn't appropriate for a statement. So let's scroll on down here till we can find a requirement. Wait a minute, we see scope. So scope, something we do have a label for, so that's a good thing to capture. So let's get to that label. So you see how easy that is to do it. So, and again, you will be able to add labels. That's again a little more advanced capability. But this is nice because now if I want to sort and filter just to find scope paragraphs or anything else I've got a label with, I could just get those by clicking on it. Clear that feature. So scroll on down here. Let's see if we can find ourselves a requirement. This one says it's a requirement, so let's look at it. And in there, well, gosh, we haven't got a quality score yet. Why is that? Well, if we come over and look at the attributes, here are the quality attributes: clear, complete, consistent, correct, design, feasible, traceable, and verifiable. So we haven't analyzed that yet. We haven't made any changes to those values. But gosh, if I have to do that by hand for every one of these, I'm gonna, it's gonna take a while, right? Well, what if I use this little button up here that says quality check? Let's try it. What does it do? So it ran through, okay, and here I am again. And I'll scroll back down. Now I have it, and it's got a 50% score. Wow, okay, let's go click on that then. Take a look, see what's happened. So it says it doesn't like some things in here. So it's not finding the information it's looking for. So again, we want to look at that. This has now been overwhelmed, by the way, because it needs to be broken up into actual paragraphs if you're going to make this into separate requirements. So proposals shall address, for example, is a separate one. So one of the ways I handle that, so I want to break this up. So oftentimes what I'll do is this. I will just take copy, or just select, I should say, all that, and then I'll cut it using the keyboard cut feature, Control X in my case. And then now I can add a child to this, which is, and that adds that set of things as a child. Again, I can reset the numbering how I want to, things like that. So I can keep doing that process if I want to. And now my child, I can just do an add after. Just keep doing that. So again, this is a way to break up a document that is come in to less refined than I want it to be. Okay. So again, that's very quick, very easy. Now what's nice is I can rerun the quality score checker on that. Scroll back down to where it is. Yeah, it's gonna be down here. So those items are down here now. So again, I probably would renumber and adjust it back up to where I wanted it. But again, you can work with that as you need to and adjust. So again, it's still at the 50% level, so it still has a lot of work to be done, still multiple sentences. So maybe I want to continue doing more with that over time. So again, this is part of that analysis to come down and say, what is really the key requirements you're trying to get to? But this, again, helps you a little bit with that analytics and help you determine what you need as you go through the process. Another thing I can do with this is, sometimes, wow, documents are interesting and yeah, we got to have them, but gosh, they're boring. So what if we wanted to see this as a tree diagram? So let's go do it that way. Oh, okay, cool. So I got that, and oh, guess what? I've got exactly that same information I had on the other view. So I can look at it, I can edit it, I can work with it there. If I change it here, it changes it everywhere. So it doesn't matter what you do, or you do it. Just work with it as you need to. Okay. So let's go back to the view. Just hit the back button, and I'm back to the view that we had. So again, I think that gives you a good idea of how to get started, at least with maybe building your requirements view. So let's say, gosh, I'm really a kind of a picture person myself. I like to start from diagrams. I like to have a context diagram. So how would I do that? So I'd come over here to diagrams, and there's none. Oh my, okay, how do I get started with that? I come over here to new diagram, select. Now there are different diagram types. And again, you may be familiar with some of these. Maybe you're familiar with SysML. We have all the SysML diagrams. Okay, so use case diagram or something like that you're trying to do. Class diagrams, things like that, layer diagrams. Couple of the ones I particularly like are the asset diagram for this purpose, and the other is the physical I/O. Now, the asset diagram is not really your classic context diagram, which is usually a physical object and the I/Os associated with it. That's what the physical I/O does for you. But it's that's a little more complicated, so I don't want to get into that diagram right now. So let's take the asset diagram and start there. So let's say we're going to put C.1, C.1, and make a context diagram. And my context. And finish. And oh, another blank palette. What do I do now? Okay. Well, you know what? There's one object over here. You know what? I bet if I grab it and I drag it over here, yes, it puts it on the dashboard, on the palette, so I can see it and I can work with it. Okay, great. So that gives me that. And notice it numbered it for me. It had C.1, so it made this C.1.1, which is the normal kind of hierarchical numbering you'd expect. That's good. So this is going to be my launch vehicle. Okay, so that would be my launch vehicle. That's going to be somehow related to my ground systems. Systems, I can spell it. I really can. And maybe this is, gosh, what else do I have? Maybe test equipment. So again, I might have some of that. So again, these are the kinds of things you'd start just doing and start building and thinking about. Those are the different objects, the different physical elements of my system that I'm thinking about. Now they are linked to each other, and we have a mechanism for doing that. You just take and grab the green circle. You see the green, when you click on one, there's a green circle. And then when you drag it to something else, that item turns green. And just let go, boom, and now you get the connection between them. Now that connection is actually a pipe called a conduit. Let's go over here and see it. Yeah, so it's a conduit. In case you're ever wondering, you come over to the metadata tab, you look there, and there it says big letters conduit. It's also down here if you have uploaded a picture associated with it, which you can. Then you would have the ability to see it here under the class. So it's a subclass of connection type, and there are all different types of these conduits. So this is something you can do also, select the label for it. So maybe this is a cable, and I'll just use that as my conduit. So conduits also have attributes of capacity and latency. So you can actually use this to help you better describe what that physical pipe is. As you will see later on, this is actually part of the constraints, the physical constraints on the simulation. And that's something I think we'll just talk to today, because again, that gets a little bit more advanced things that you care about later. By the way, you can also move this label around wherever you want. Also go back and reset the label. Again, all kinds of line options. Let's do another one here. Let's make another connection here. The ground systems. And that's not going to be a physical cable. That's going to be some kind of a wireless data relay of some kind. So maybe that's an uplink, downlink. And maybe I have two of these. So let's do the uplink part of it. And let's do that as let's make that a lightning bolt, because we want to make it pretty. And then we can go the other way. I think I probably just did this the opposite way, didn't I? This should be the downlink, so let's do it that way. And you can also add the line options. You have the directed. So use directed as a selection. Oh, I've got the lightning bolt selected, sorry. That's why I was wondering why that was not coming up. There we go. Directed. There we go. That shows me that that's really the opposite. So already I want to make that the uplink. So let me make that the uplink instead. And I'll make this one the downlink. Take that off and make it the downlink. So again, I can work with this, make it a little prettier, make it a little easier to read, dragging things around. Yeah, if you want to, you can move that around there too. There we go. And so this is a way, again, just for you to start figuring out the things that go together. If you want to, again, for a context diagram, I'm usually thinking about the input-output elements that are associated with it. So I can actually do that too in this diagram, but I do it through relationships. So it transfers an input-output. So this is going to be, I'm going to put in here the input-output. I'm going to create one, and I'm going to make that the downlink signal. And again, that has size associated with it, which again works with your the capacity of the conduit. So to simulate the fact that you might have you know, delays due to a large amount of data flowing down the pipe. And you, again, you see the arrow showing up here at the end of the lightning bolt to see it is the downlink part. Okay, so again, this is just something to get you started and start playing with the idea of creating a context diagram. So this is just one way to do that in the tool. And hopefully that gives you an idea of how you interface with it. So notice some of the things we just did. If you click on any particular object, I see the information about it on the sidebar. The metadata tab has the picture area, so I can upload a picture. If I have a picture handy, I could upload one. I don't know if I have one handy anywhere here. Yeah, I don't have anything easy to see here. Well, let's put that in. That'll be fun. So again, it's just a diagram I had, so it doesn't matter what picture you put in there. And so you can do that with it. You can also give it a label of some sort. This is my system I care about, so that's what I'm going to give it that. Attributes associated with it. Now with this particular object, we don't have any attributes but the name, number, and description. So that's okay. You ought to put the description. It's my launch vehicle. And if you want to get specific, you can. Oh, let's fix that. Nice to have from spell check. Okay. And then relationships as well. And so the relationships show you, we just showed you how to do that with things. You can see the connected by relationships get created automatically for you. So as you're drawing, you're actually creating objects in the database and you're making relationships between things. So what that does is it allows us to look at this in other views. So if I wanted to open this up as a physical I/O diagram, I could see it this way. And this shows me different things. Now the yellow is saying that there's something with it, and I can, in this particular view, I can get my check model warnings and see that things are missing. So there's information missing still in this view that it's helping with both the physical and functional model. And again, that gets a little bit more deep into modeling than I want to do today. But again, this is things that will help you make a better model as you go through the process. So there's a lot of analytics that are going to help you throughout the process. But if you notice, I didn't draw that diagram. It automatically created it from the other diagram. If I go back to my asset diagram, it's unchanged. Well, I guess it changed a little bit here. Moved my line on me. So, well, do I want it? There we go. Anyway, so hopefully this gives you some ideas of how you can work with the different diagrams like that. Well, but what if you're really kind of a functional analysis kind of guy like I am? I work from processes. Processes are kind of everything to me. So process modeling is here as well. You just go to the action diagram, select it. My process. That one. Fun. There's that. And same thing here with that. You just start dragging and dropping. Now, in this case, you drag and drop onto a line. The line has to go green to accept it. So take a look at that with it. And so you can add the different constructs as well. Let's say I want a parallel. I can add that. I can add another action to it. You see how quickly you can start building something. Well, maybe I have an OR. Okay, so there's an OR branch. Now, by the way, in LML, the decision points are a type of action, and so they're allocatable. They have relationships, so I can allocate to who performs them. So that's the very valuable capability within the tool. So again, this is very easy to use. If I want to now connect these two with an input-output element, I have an optional or trigger. If it's optional, it means that it's not going to wait for the information. If it's a trigger, it's going to wait until it receives that piece of information. So if you want to read this, P11 here will enable both these to execute, but P13 can't execute till P12 completes. That's how you read this diagram. So again, this will help you build as you need to go with it, and you can create the process diagrams very quickly. Last but not least, let me just show very quickly. By the way, you notice I'm not saving because we auto save everything. If you don't want to save something, make sure you discard changes to it. So to do a new test suite, same kind of thing. Come over here, click new test suite, my tests. That again starts you with something where now I have to just start building new cases. So this is going to be my system integration test. And I can add child to that. Step 1 test. Add after that. Step 2. What's also, so here's where you could add the expected result, actual result, the status as well. It'll do a status roll up. So if I say not run, this one is, let's go in progress, and let's say failed. Not doing too well so far. Anyway, so you get the idea. So you can just build your test cases as you need to. What's also nice about this, by the way, is that is a process as well. So I can actually visualize this as an action diagram. And again, it created that action diagram for me automatically from the data in the database. So I have the ability to model my test processes just like I've modeled other kinds of processes within the tool. So let's go back to the dashboard here real quick. I want to leave some time for questions. So you see a lot of information is available now. I can add other widgets, by the way, here, bar charts, comment field, maybe I want the comments particularly, tables. So again, lots of different things you can work with that. I didn't show the commenting option, but it would show the comments. Another thing that really is helpful for us, if you're using our cloud version, please send us feedback, things you'd like to see in the tool you don't think are there. Again, we can send, if it is already there, we'll come back and tell you. If not, it's something we add to our list of improvements and enhancements to the tool. And major things have come from this, whole new diagrams. In fact, Test Center started from this very box. So we take this very, very seriously. If you're offline and you're doing it in behind your own firewall, then send an email to support with any of your suggestions, and they're very much appreciated. And last but not least, very quickly, I want to just tell you how to get to reports. So every view you're in has a reports button. In that view, you will have the set of reports you can create. So in this case, DocX is probably what I'd want out of this. It is going to give me all the things I see here, all these fields. So if I want the DocX with the rationale, the quality score, and the labels, then that's what I would get. So it's what you see is what you get. Also, then another thing very quickly is database view. This is where you can search for things. So I want to get launch. So I just want to find everything with launch. If I can spell it right. There we go. And this tells me very quickly. So again, complex searches are available. You can also save queries. You can set up related information here. So just a lot you can do with the tool. So given that we're only got another 10 minutes, I want to leave the last 10 minutes here for questions. So Elizabeth,
Thanks.
do we have any questions so far?
Thanks, Steve. We actually have a few questions already. If you haven't had a chance to do so, use the panel on the right for questions. And if you're having any trouble asking us questions, give us an email. We'll be happy to answer you there. So our first question is, from the very beginning was, can't you do all this with Magic Draw?
You can't do about a third of this in Magic Draw, maybe less than that. Plus the fact that the big problem is things like that diagrams, where the diagrams would automatically be created, the other diagram type, that doesn't happen. You've got to go through and pick and put the things on the other chart. So that's really a problem for most people. You have to do all the configuration management.
Thanks, Steve. Our next question is, do you have recommendations for the best approach for new users, organizations, implementing NSLate, like a pilot program?
So one of the things we like to do is we will help you with training. We highly recommend the training. Our training is very specialized. We actually tailor every training course to each group. And if you'll let us, we'll help you with your own project. So we'll help you build towards something that you're already trying to get to. So seeing it in context with what you're trying to actually do really helps people understand the tool much more effectively. And that's our goal with any kind of training. So you'll find the training is sort of like a workshop. It's more like a kickoff rather than just a project kickoff, rather than just a training course.
Our next question is, as a new NSLate user, do I have to start with requirements, or can I start with a test plan?
Oh, absolutely. That's that again, one of the document options and documents view was test plan. So you can go through and select the test plan document, tests, and then same process, walking through. And right now we only have the CTC test plan, but it's a pretty good one actually. You might find it to be very useful. I know we've started a number of them this way. This has a lot of that information to work from. So that's a great way to go. Absolutely.
Our next question is, do you supply training materials?
Oh yes, and in fact, there's so much online anyway. If you go to the YouTube videos, those are effectively training materials. If you go to our help package, our help center, that is also, let me bring that back up. Yeah, here we go. The help center gives you all kinds of information and helps you get started. Particularly the how-to guides will help you do the kinds of things you're interested in, like V&V you mentioned specifically. So again, those will all help you with what you're trying to get done.
Our next question is, can you import projects from other MBSE tools such as MagicDraw, XMI?
So we do have an import analyzer for that purpose, and that's over here in the import analyzer with the XMI import. MagicDraw is one of the ones we do import from. I will say though, it's somewhat limited because the MagicDraw ontology is not documented, or at least not made exposed so we know what their tags even mean. So we've had to guess. So we've done our best job guessing. And plus the other thing you're going to find when you're coming from MagicDraw is a lot of those are really just drawings, and they actually don't execute. They have actually significant errors in them. In fact, you can even see it in many of the SysML books. The diagrams that are in many of those books have significant problems to them. So we actually recommend doing the same thing you do with Visio, which is redraw it. But you can try using the XMI, see if that gives you what you want. But I think you may find there's a lot more availability.
We have a request to show some of the database and modeling interoperability capabilities.
I'm sorry, say again, which one I didn't
we have a request to show the database and modeling interoperability capabilities.
Database, and I'm looking for the one you're talking about. I'm not seeing it here.
It was actually written to us privately. It was they're looking for RA Architect interface. I think that actually probably would be an entire webinar on its own.
Yeah, can you say again what they asked for? I was trying to read the question, and since I didn't see it,
Absolutely, I will go ahead. I apologize. It's for, can you please show some of the database and modeling interoperability capabilities?
So in fact, that's what this is. So every view is driven from the data. So even this document itself is driven from data. So if I want to see it in just the data view, I would go to database, and then I would look for that information. So let me get back to modify. So if I wanted to see just the statements, for example, I could see them that way. And then I could look at numbered by number. So that's one way to look at it. Another is to go top of hierarchy, and then I can take that same document, and here's the document as a hierarchy. So again, this is all that same data, same information, all this information on the sidebar about it. You can add comments to it. All right here too. Took that off, and there you are. And then if you notice, I go to my dashboard, and here's my comment as well. So again, it's all connected together in one place. It's all configuration managed together, if that helps. And again, that whole idea of the view, I can take and look at this as a tree diagram. I did a little earlier. So I can see it that way. All the same information. So you can see that auto generation really helps you keep the data together and interact with it as you need to, as you want to, as you feel most comfortable. I hope that answered the question.
Thanks, Steve. We have several other questions. Does each requirement get assigned ID automatically?
Yes. In fact, you have several different levels of ID of anything. So this is a statement. You know, it doesn't matter what's a statement or requirement or what it is. There's a global ID, which is a really long one. There's an internal ID within the project as well here, showing those are your first two items. And then of course you have your own number you can put in there in the number field. And if you say, well, gee, I really want something else, add another attribute and you can have that as well. So again, many different ways to ID the requirements and work with them.
Thanks, Steve. The next question is, what are your recommendations to set up a robust requirements management program complete with allocations to multiple consultants and requirements for multiple artifacts?
Okay, that's a lot. I think the key is this actually is set up to do mobile projects. So you can see I have tons of projects. In fact, let me go to manage projects here for a second. So you can see all the projects I have access to. These are the ones owned by me. I mean, I have 30 I have myself. Some of them are interactive, some of them are standalone, and they can be worked together. Again, we have cross-project relationships now capable between projects, so you can actually have data in one project. Like let's say I have a document in one project, I just want to use pieces of it in places. I would then take and I could then reuse that information in another project. And so again, that gets a little more advanced than I wanted to get at this level, but that yes, you can do that. And set up the people you need to do the job. This, of course, will help you tremendously in terms of reducing the number of people you probably need on a project, because this now is much more collaborative, much more interactive, so it'll be much faster for you to work with.
Our next question is there a change management system?
Yes, actually, every object's history is tracked. So in fact, if you want to see that, you just, again, let's go back to that document view. If I select on that object, I hit the open, I have a number of different options. The first one is second one is the history dialog. So I select history dialog, you see what was changed, when it was changed, who changed it, line in, line out. You can revert back to a previous version if you want to here as well. And you saw that we had the restore even for a deleted item. So again, it's doing change management for you all the way through the process. To apply it to change management, that's another. There are different change managements, right? So there's another change management which is for communications, and this can help you communicate changes as well very easily, because again, it's a much more effective way to communicate and work with people collaboratively with the commenting capabilities, things like that. So I think I hit that on a couple of levels.
We have time for one last question. Are there Are there any easy of use functions built into InnoSlate looking for expand all nodes, edit attributes of multiple entities, or relate all selected entities to another, etc.?
Oh, yes, all kinds of things, features to do that. There are, let's see, one of the options is the traceability matrix. The traceability matrix will let me select and work with, let me do a query, and I want class on asset. And I want to have it trace to. And so here, this is an example of that where I can take and trace my different aspects together. So this was the set of physical items we have. And so all I'm doing is saying, well, this is going to relate to that one. And by clicking that, I've actually established a relationship between the two. And once I save that, I can do that. By the way, also we have a traceability assistant. Now this probably won't work much well in this one. Oh, it did something interesting. Ground systems all showed up here. So again, these are all ways to have it help you connect things together. So that's one way. Of course, you can also, in database view, if you want to find things, is orphan, I think is one of my options. Okay, that's probably not it. Is colon orphan. That's the right syntax. So, okay, I'm trying to try to remember what that syntax is. Well, when you can't remember something like that, you go to the help package, and it would show me how to do that, searching for entities. So let's go find out what that is. See how I misspelled it. Is orphan, I probably misspelled it. And there's nothing that doesn't have an orphan. Okay. Is top. There's my tops. So again, these are helping you find things you're looking for. You can do wildcard searching as well. So there's just a lot of different things here to help you do that. The word process or project is here throughout. So again, I think you can see there's a lot of ways to get to the information, work with it. Those things that I was just doing is when you're trying to relate pieces of information within the individual tabs also helps you do that. So, okay, so anything else? I'm running out of time here.
Yeah, I apologize. I think that's all we have time for today. If we did not get to one of your questions, please feel free to contact us after the webinar. And thank you again for joining us today for today's webinar. As a reminder, we'll be following up with you very soon to send you a link to the recording and the presentation slide deck. We'd also like to invite you to our next webinar, What's New in NSLate 4.2. That will be on July 10th at 11 a.m. So be sure to check your email for that invitation. We encourage you to visit our website and our blogs, as well as connect with us on social media. You could request to join the NSLate user group on LinkedIn for updates, news, and tips and tricks related to NSLate. That concludes today's presentation. Thank you again for your attendance and enjoy the rest of your day.